Welcome to Iowa Pagan News, your informative internet radio station catering to all pagans worldwide. We are dedicated to bringing you the very best in music, news, events, and lots of fun stuff. Come tune into our new podcast at www.plrdn.podbean.com. Now, here is your host, Lou Silverwolf Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Pagan Artist Spotlight on the National Pagan Podcast Network and also Iowa Pagan News. And appreciate everyone tuning in. This afternoon, I am joined by my special guest, King Uther Pendragon from the UK. And this is one interview that I've been really looking forward to. I'm happy that I was able to get in contact with you and arrange a time so that you and I can sit down and talk.
Yep. Well, I'd like to welcome all your listeners and say basically, hell and well met to all of you.
It's definitely a pleasure because this is, like I said, this has been one interview I've been looking forward to. You have a lot going on over in your area, and it seems like you've been heading up a lot of different events and a lot of different stuff going on, especially with Stonehenge.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different issues that I'm sort of heading up at Stonehenge. I mean, firstly, there's the whole access issue and about getting us as pilgrims to be able to be there at solstices and equinoxes. And that fight took quite a long time and quite a way. And that started in the 80s when they tried banning everybody from Stonehenge. There was a time when you couldn't get within 5 miles over a 3-day period over the solstices and the equinoxes. And I took it through all the courts I could, and eventually got it heard European Court of Human Rights. And funnily enough, the young barrister who assisted me at the time is now leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition. It was Keir Starmer, who's now the leader of the Labour Party, who as a young barrister assisted me when we went to Strasbourg. The result of it was basically going back to 98 when I took the case. They decided that the government was able to put this exclusion zone in and around Stonehenge, but only if they could prove it was in the interest of national security, which of course they couldn't. And as a result, they never applied for it again. So 99, they tried an all-ticket event, which didn't work. I told them it wouldn't work. In 2000, we got in. And we've got in ever since. And we're still fighting for more access for pilgrims at solstices and equinoxes. So that's one of the things I head up at Stonehenge. Another is we're fighting to get the cremated human remains put back from Aubrey Hole 7, which is where they took them from. Because when you hear the expression Stonehenge and you look at Stonehenge, it's a misnomer. Basically, a henge is a bank and ditch. It's got nothing to do with the stones. And a long time before the stones were put there, there was a bank and ditch, and there were holes there that originally were thought as wooden post holes, but actually they were where the Preseli, and that's what this is. This is a piece of Preseli blue that I wear around my neck, and the Preseli stones were there in a circle. And underneath them, they found cremated human remains, and they took them out. Well, they're not going to put them on display. There's nothing to see. They're just a bit of burnt bone. But I'm saying, put them back. Let those we lay to rest, stay to rest. So that's another campaign I'm heading up at Stonehenge. And we've got support from Indigenous people around the world for that one. Another thing I'm heading up more recently is the whole Stonehenge tunnel thing, or the opposition to the whole Stonehenge tunnel thing. I'm opposed to it for a number of reasons. That's going on.
I would say, that was one part that I could not figure out for the life of me who came up with that idea.
Oh, some silly planner just, threw a dart in a board, and that's where it came up. No, I tell you what happened. It came up years ago. I mean, I've been arguing over this one for in excess of 20 years. I've been going to public inquiries, and I've been giving evidence to them, and I've been opposing to the tunnel. Initially, they were going to do a cut and cover, which basically is just a big trench, and they put a roof on it, and they returf it over the top. So I said, well, you do a cut and cover. So long as you have budgeted for the biggest protest in Europe, you go ahead. And they said, well, how do you know there'll be a protest? I said, well, I'll be leading it. And I'd just come off the back of the Newbury anti-roads campaign, where we were famously up the trees wearing our white frocks, as I call them, i.e. we had druids up the trees. Because what happened, another senior druid went along to the Newbury bypass and said, look, we're apolitical. We don't care whether the bypass is built or not, but we're here to bless the trees. So that to me sounded like a requiem. So I thought, hang on a minute, who's the real druid here? The guy on the ground in a white frock doing a ceremony, or the guy up the tree risking his life? Well, the next day they came to evict, and I found a third way. I found the answer. And my answer was a guy up the tree wearing the white frock. It was me and my order. And we have been the political arm and the warrior arm of the Druids ever since. So we fight a lot of environmental campaigns as well as Stonehenge. But one of the other things we're fighting at Stonehenge is over parking, because what it is they've introduced parking charges at their car park at solstices and equinoxes. So I'm saying, no, we will not pay to pray, and I'm refusing to pay, and I'm fighting them over that one. But one of the things is they say, well, actually, we're not charging you to pray. We're not charging you to be there for the solstice or the equinox. We're charging you to use our car park. Well, that would only work were it not for the fact that they, along with Wiltshire Police and along with Wiltshire Council, close every other byway open to all traffic within the whole World Heritage Site. So the roads we normally park on, which are sort of dirt tracks, you can't use at solstice and equinox, so you have to use their car park. So basically, they're charging us to go there as pilgrims to pray, and it's by stealth. They're calling it a parking charges. So there's always things going on that I'm fighting for at Stonehenge, but there's a lot of other issues that me and my order get involved in. For instance, we spearheaded. From a pagan perspective, we were against the fracking, so we laid down magic for that. We were involved in so many different anti-roads campaigns, it's unreal. I mean, one of the security once came up to me and he said, "You're not going to win this, you know." I said, "No, we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for your grandchildren and their children. You know, we're doing it for future generations."
Right.
And he said, "But do you ever get anyone on your side? Do you know, if it's all about just putting word out, do you ever win anyone over?" To which I said, "Well, we've won me over. I was a piling foreman on the Peterborough bypass. I used to build the damn things." Yeah. So that really surprised him. And funnily enough, from that campaign, at least 6 of the security guards who were on that either left the security and sided with us, or have since joined my druid order. So yeah, we do win people over. And like I say, we're the political wing, and so subsequently I stand here as an independent for Salisbury. Every time there's a general election, I stand here. And all the work we do basically is you know, nobody pays us to do it. Right. So we put out for funds. You know, I mean, every time I stand for Parliament, it costs £500 deposit, for instance. And obviously, you know, there are a lot of, you know, expenses incurred in all the work we do. So there's a website out there that people can find. It's Pendragon.org, and they can donate. But what we do is we take the fight to them. I mean, famously, Newbury, I think I was arrested 26 times, and I got 25 not guilties because I stood my own defense. But I tell you, I've had them in court as much as they've had me in court, and that all costs money, like I say. But I have taken the government to Europe. I've taken them for judicial review. I've taken them all the way, through all the British courts, and I will continue to do that. I will continue to challenge them. And one of the druids who I met, who was a senior druid of another order, said, "Look, Arthur, how on earth can you be a druid when you keep getting yourself arrested?" I said, "Well, look, my order is sworn to fight for truth, honor, and justice. And I don't know a better place to fight for justice than in a court of law. So if a law is wrong, challenge it." And that's what I say to anyone. I would say if a law is wrong, challenge it. Challenge it, but use the law against the law. And one of the magical seals that's in here, which is a scabbard that contains my sword, is a Solomonic seal that turns the enemy's weapons upon themselves. And it's useful in court to turn the law against them. If you think someone is actually breaking the law by stopping you from lawful protest or whatever, you challenge it. My order is called the Loyal Arthurian War Bandit. The loyal doesn't mean a thing. I put the L on the front of it simply so I can stand in court and say, we're not breaking the law, we are the law. Loyal Arthurian War Bandit, LAW. And we challenge it. So we challenge unjust laws, and we fight for the environment, and we fight on many causes. And a lot of people get hold of me through Facebook or something else and say, look, they're doing this, is this right? And I will advise them as far as I am learned in law, or I will seek advice for them, or I will say, right, this is how I would challenge it. Where are you? I mean, I spent time on remand because I was refusing the bail conditions. The bail conditions were just basically you can't go back to the protest site. So I said, no, you can't do that. You can't run me out of town. That's where I live. It's not a protest site, it's my home, etc. So we argued that. So I spent a lot of time in and out of jail because I would not accept the bail conditions that they would impose on me. So eventually they had to take it to a higher court and change the bail conditions. But whilst I was in there, I ended up arguing with the governor because I said, look, I am a remand prisoner. I don't have to wear prison uniform. I can wear my own clothes. He wouldn't let me wear my robes. So I went naked in protest. I said, I can't wear my robes. I go naked. I ended up on the block of a Category A prison, which is the highest secure prison in the land. And I was only in there on remand for trespassing. You know what I mean? They really didn't like me. But as a result, if any of your viewers or listeners are ever in the United Kingdom and they get arrested and they're on remand, they are allowed in law to wear their pagan robes and regalia in the privacy of their own cell. That law, I got changed.
Nice. I mean, I'm glad that changes are being able to be made. That's the main thing. Now
you can change things if you go out to change things, and your cause is just, you can succeed. I've proved that. I mean, they've had to rewrite the rule book around me, obviously, because the 20th century and the 21st century was not keyed up for Dark Age warriors with swords, was it? So initially, I was fighting over the right to bear a sword as a druid sword bearer, and I was being taken to court for bladed weapons in a public place. But there are 4 defences allowed in British law, and the 4 defences are basically tools of the trade. So that's why, obviously, you can have a pointed object if it's a tool of your trade. The second defence is national dress, and obviously, as I argued it, King Arthur would not be correctly dressed were he not carrying Excalibur. And there are religious reasons you're allowed to carry a bladed weapon. So I argued them all in court. But here's a funny story that I'm sure you'll find amusing. Basically, the day before an eviction at a protest site, I was getting ready to be arrested, obviously, as were everybody else. And there was a young druid there, and he was whittling away piece of wood into the shape of a pointed stick, basically. And he said to me, he said, Arthur, you got a sword and a dagger, haven't you? I said, yeah, I got a sword and a dagger. He said, and you've got them back from the police and you fought in court to get them. So I said, yes, I fought for the right for my sword and dagger. He said, well, can you look after this for me? This pointed stick, as it were. So the next day, when we got evicted, I was taken to the police cells and I was arrested for 3-bladed or pointed weapons. So I said, no, that they're not bladed or pointed weapons. What are you on about? So the custody sergeant said, okay, you got a 4-foot broadsword there. I said, no, ceremonial sword. He said, all right, I'll write ceremonial sword, but it's still a 4-foot broadsword. So he said, what about the Sykes Fairburn commando knife? I said, no, that's a ritual dagger. So he said, all right, ritual dagger. He said, and what about this? Said this pointed stick, and he held up this piece of wood that I had. So thinking on my feet, I said, it's quite obviously a vampire's stake, isn't it? If you want to take a druid to court for carrying a vampire's stake, go for it. Needless to say, they never did.
Nice. Now, as far as with the parking issue goes, I mean, would they consider it to be, would the city or whoever consider doing like free will donations instead of a required charge?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't understand.
So, I mean, as far as the parking situation at Stonehenge,
free donations. That's what I suggested to them, but no. Basically, they want to make money because the custodians of Stonehenge, it's the biggest cash cow they've got. They're in charge of properties in care in the United Kingdom. Now, none of the properties in care that they look after make any money. Stonehenge has to make it for all the rest. They've got 2 that turn a profit, Stonehenge and Dover Castle. And so they want to make as much money as they can. And that includes now parking at solstice and equinox, which is one of the things I'm against. But another thing I'm against is the commercialization of, they can commercialize the place and they can make as much money as they like for the rest of the year. But 4 times a year, it's a place of worship. That's solstices and equinoxes. I fought for that. And we get in at dawn for 3 of them, and we're in all night for the summer, which is the most well known, of course. Now, what they've started doing recently is putting a marquee up in the field where the stones are in the sacred space and selling their T-shirts, which say Stonehenge rocks. It's so annoying, it's unreal. So I went up to their merchandising person in this marquee that was there for the first time they put it there at the summer solstice. And I said, well, look, there is a very Christian point to be made here, nothing to do with us and the pagan belief, but there was a certain person who turned over the tables of the money changers on the temple steps. So if you're still here in the morning, I'm going to turn your tables over. Needless to say, they got a lot of security around them the next morning. I couldn't get anywhere near it. But the fact is, they want to make money out of it. Now, they can make money out of it for the rest of the year. One day in a year, they don't open. That's Christmas Day. Every other day, they open, including solstices and equinoxes. What happens is they throw us out and they open up for business as usual by 9 o'clock. So they don't lose any money except Christmas Day. And the 4 times we're allowed in, they're trying to make money out of us as well, which is wrong.
Yeah,
it is totally wrong. Let them make money out of the tourists during the day later on. Let them make money every day of the year, but not solstices and equinoxes, not while we're in there worshipping. It's a place of reverence. And if you think about the genus loci, the spirit of the place, the ancestors who have been there for thousands of years, it has more continuity than any of the Christian cathedrals in this country. The Druids are the indigenous religion of these isles. And paganism is indigenous religion. But when you think about it and you look at British law, you find it's all based in Christendom, which means, okay, and this is the way the law works. If you've got an extension, you're building an extension, and you find human remains, you get hold of the police in the first instance. They'll get hold of the local authority, and basically what will happen is the county archaeologist will come out and he'll look at the grave, and whether it's north, south, east or west, he'll determine whether it's Christian or pagan. And if it's pre-Christian, and this is the way they term it, if it's pre-Christian, they're not protected. If it's Christian burial, they have to go back into hallowed ground.
Right.
So if you're pagan and you die and you're buried, and you can be dug up and thrown in the dustbin, nobody cares. That's the way the law is in this country. And that is something else I'm fighting, and I'm trying to fight that at a governmental level. So fighting for truth, honour and justice is a very daily occurrence for me and my order. It's what we do, which is why we're considered the warrior political arm of the modern Druids. But then, a lot of people say, well, aren't Druids pacifistic? Aren't Druids, and I say, yeah, if you happen to be part of the revivalist Victorian sort of Druids, maybe. But if you look at the original Druids, who do you think was causing all the trouble? It was the Druids. I mean, you've only got to look at Caesar and read, and you will see that they weren't so much bothered about the Celtic tribes as the Druids that led them. That's why they put them all to the sword at Iona. But what they didn't bank on, of course, was a female Druid being Boudica, who led the revolt behind. So, Druids have always initially been political. So I see no reason why they should not be political now. And that's why I am a very political Druid. And as are members of my order. Like I say, there were a lot of people on the protest sites who were Druids, but they weren't allowed to robe up because their leaders of their Druid order said, no, we don't have a stand on this because we're non-political. So I just said, put your frocks on, guys, come up the trees with us. You can join my order because we are, go in for it, like the ancient Druids, where we take our inspiration from. We don't take our inspiration from the poor man's Masons and the revivalist Druids. We take our inspiration from the ancient Druids.
At least you're doing things for great causes. That's the main thing. To try to make positive changes.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to go ahead and play your things you've got over on Reverb Nation, and this one is called The Bones, and this relates back to the remains that have been found at Stonehenge that you were trying to have returned and be reinterred there at Stonehenge. All right, we're going to get into this, and then we're going to take station identification right afterwards, and we'll be right back right after this.
We are not and never have been against the study of our ancestors' remains. What we are against is the desecration of our premier temple, Stonehenge. We believe that they should be returned to their intended final resting place after study. Not, as the archaeologists wish, to box them up and keep them stored for future generations for scientific research, or as English Heritage believe, to put them on display for commercial gain. We believe that once studied, human remains of whatever faith should be reinterred. Let those we lay to rest stay at rest. What can future generations possibly learn from cremated human remains that has not already been learned from the 7 years of study? And what can visitors learn from skeletal remains on display in the name of education? Since the invention of the moving picture and more recently the children's cartoon, each and every child of preschool age knows what a skeleton looks like. Modern technology makes it possible to display accurate copies and representations without the need to display the real thing. No, we say, we bury the dead. As Druids, we believe in honouring the ancestors, the very giants on whose shoulders we sit. Like the archaeologists, we believe those buried around Stonehenge were instrumental in the building of and the culture of those who went before us. But unlike the archaeologists, we believe as such, we owe them the common decency and dignity to respect the wishes of those who laid them to rest. We believe the ancient dead, our collective ancestors, have as much right to be left in peace as do the recent dead. And the cultural wishes of those who laid them to rest is as valid as any belief structure practiced to this day. Far too long have we, pagans and druids, been silent on this matter. We can no longer see our beliefs and that of our forefathers swept aside in the name of science and education. It was the proto-druids, the pre-Christian priest caste who built Stonehenge, the very people whose work and knowledge inspire modern science and education, who were buried in the environs of Stonehenge, honoured by their peers and cultured to be laid there. We do not think it too much to ask that they should be put back. King Arthur, Pendragon.
The old ones are calling me, all buried in love and peace, were laid to rest, so stay to rest for all eternity. Our ancestor ancient kings, the guardians neath our feet, stone sentinels stand that circle our land, exalted warrior priests.
Sister Moon, Apothecary and More is a collaboration of local island witches bringing you handcrafted tools for ritual, amazing apothecary, custom vinyl work, merchandise, and so much more. But we are not just an online store. We are a sisterhood, a platform, and a voice for everything that is magical. Join us for our famous Tarot Tuesdays from 11 to 4 Eastern Standard Time for a discounted reading with our amazing in-house intuitive reader and priestess, Wolf Spirit Energy, Beverly Oberlin. You can find us on Facebook at Sister Moon Store or on the web at sistermoon.shop. So fly on over and stop in for a spell.
What's going on, everybody? Cloud the Pagan Rapper here, and you're listening to Iowa Pagan News Radio.
All right, now we are back with King Arthur Pendragon, and now I got a question on that track. Who put the music to that? Was that Adrian and Spiral Dance?
No.
Okay.
No. It was, and actually the vocals as well was from someone called Susan Paramore, and when you get Alex on, he'll tell you more about her.
Okay, excellent. Now,
Well, one of the things though about the human remains, you've got to realise that fighting for the tunnel, we are allied with the archaeologists, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder with them. But over the human remains, we see it rather differently. And one of the archaeologists said to me, he said, "Well, look, Arthur, you don't actually know they wanted to be buried there, do you?" So I said, "Well, no. But you don't know that your granny wanted to be buried in that churchyard, but we're not digging her up, are we? What we do know is their peers laid them there specifically and reverently in the expectation and sure uncertain knowledge, although it was false, that they would be left there in peace." To which you didn't really have much answer. But yeah, I mean, that's the point. I mean, which I was making earlier. The Christian remains are protected under English law, and pagan, or pre-Christian as they call them, are not.
gotcha. Also, want to say welcome to Dale Lay, who is joining us, and I'm thinking that he knows you quite well. I don't know if Dale's over in your neck of the woods or if he's over here, but he was saying hello.
Good. And kind regards to him from me.
Okay,
Well,
so now, do you think that there's going to be like any kind of progress on getting these issues addressed?
Well, there has already been some progress in as much as I started fighting for access at Stonehenge in the 80s. We now have access for religious observances. So yes, there has been progress, and there will be more progress. It's just a very long and fraught path. At the moment, it's a triad that we're against. We're not just against English heritage, who are the custodians. I mean, I'll give you an example. What tends to happen at solstices and equinoxes is basically English heritage, who are the custodians of Stonehenge, apply to Wiltshire Council to close all the byways open to all traffic, all the roads within the World Heritage Site, so they can get everybody and the monopoly, get everybody into their car park. So they have to apply, but they can only apply under British law on the advice of the police. Mm-hmm. And they apply to the council. So at the moment, we're trying to break that chain, basically. We've got English Heritage, we've got Wiltshire Constabulary, and we've got Wiltshire Council. So all three bodies are working together in order to stop anyone parking anywhere near Stonehenge unless they pay car parking fees to English Heritage. So that's one of the things we're doing at the moment. And I guarantee there will be progress. There will be progress on, I mean, one of the things we fought, like I said earlier, was against the fracking. They have not fracked commercially in the United Kingdom. What I actually did was magically I laid down the King's Curse that I've only used twice, and on both occasions it was successful. Mm-hmm. So, although we're the political warrior arm of the Druids, we have our own magic that we carry with us and we can use and call on. And some of that magic is pretty potent stuff and works. So, yes, we've made progress and we'll make more. And if not, well, like I always say, I'm a warrior. I'm an old war horse. I'll fight for peace, but if we ever get it, I'm out of here.
Right. Now the thing with this idea of the tunnel going underneath Stonehenge, to me, I would think that would disrupt all the current ley lines.
Yeah, but of course they don't look at it like that. They just look at it as a planning application to build a tunnel. Now it doesn't actually go. That's a misconception. It doesn't actually go beneath the stones. It goes off to just the way. But the thing is, it goes through chalk. Now, as any geologist will tell you, chalk is ancient seabed. Okay, so they'll say, well, it's not going to destroy any archaeology because there can't be any archaeology in the chalk layer, and it's a bored tunnel as opposed to the cut and cover that they threatened to do earlier. But, and here's the rub: we've got to get down to the chalk layer from both ends, the western portal and the eastern portal. Now, one of the portals is directly where the sun sets. Everybody knows about the alignments of Stonehenge. What they don't realise is it's like that. At one end, you've got where the sun rises at the summer solstice. Directly opposite is where it sets at the winter solstice. So one of the portals is virtually in the same vicinity where it sets. So the light pollution will be horrendous and you won't be able to see that sunset. And at the other end, there's so much archaeology there because of new discoveries of what they're terming Blickmead, rather. And they'll all be destroyed. They've only got one chance to build this tunnel and they've got to do it right. But what they're doing is they're going for the shorter of the border tunnels. They're going for the cheaper option. And we're saying, no, you can't do that. And I met recently with UNESCO and ICAMUS. And I said to them, well, it depends how you want to portray Stonehenge as a World Heritage Site. You want to portray it as a protest site, then, yeah, let this tunnel go ahead. And they said, well, how do you know there'll be a protest? And again, I said, well, I'll be one of the people on it. You will have, and this is what I said to UNESCO and ICAMUS, you will have rogue druids standing shoulder to shoulder with protesters in front of diggers if you go ahead with this tunnel. And it's not a veiled threat, it's a promise, because I'll be there.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and so now, basically, ICAMUS and UNESCO have come out against the plans for this tunnel. Whether the British government listen or not, especially now, we've got a new prime minister who's saying she's going to create work by building roads. I mean, who knows? But the fact is, it's all in the hands of the lawyers at the moment, and we will fight them through law or through protests. It doesn't matter. We will fight, and we will continue to fight because we are sworn to fight. My order is sworn to fight for truth, for honour, and for justice. And if that means getting in front of bulldozers, so be it.
Well, I would be right there with you if I had the chance to. That I would make a promise. Now, Dale is saying that he said, unless witness, you'd not be able to feel how devastating this would be to do with light. Because he's over in Sheffield. And he's also wanting to know, is the Grove going to be open for the equinox?
They most certainly are. We've already had that row. I went to a meeting with English Heritage recently and have been assured that the Groves will be open on the night of the equinox. That's the night of the 22nd, and it's the dawn of the 23rd of September. And basically, we will be there to celebrate. And I will see him on the Grove. I'll be there on my motorcycle.
Excellent. So, with the causes that you're currently fighting and waiting to hear back from lawyers and whatnot, what have you got coming up for the rest of this year?
Well, obviously we've got the equinox, and beyond that we'll have the solstice. But funnily enough, directly after the equinox on the 24th of September, I'm over at Avery with a number of other senior druids, and we're swearing in an archdruid for the sacred site of Avery. So that's happening. And above and beyond that, I'm sure there's going to be a number of protests because I'm not convinced that this government is going to have any of the answers that are needed for the current crisis we're facing in Great Britain.
Well, I'm just hoping that things can change so that we have a equitable and peaceful resolution to all of this.
Like I said, I'll fight for peace, but if we ever get it, I'm out of here. I'm not needed.
Yeah, I understand. I completely agree with you. All right. Well, I definitely want to thank you for coming and joining me this afternoon. This has been an honor and privilege to be able to sit down and talk with you this afternoon. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And basically, hail and farewell to your listeners and viewers.
All right. Thank you there, Arthur. I do appreciate it. And as always, you've been listening to another edition of Pagan Artist Spotlight on the on the National Pagan Podcast Network and Iowa Pagan News. If you have questions for me directly, you can get with me directly at Earl at iapnradio.net. You can also reach out to Arthur on his Facebook page and then also through his website at arthurpendragon.org. And there's a lot that you can learn from Arthur directly. He is definitely one of our good people that are fighting for what is definitely deserved and rightful for all of us as pagans. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Appreciate everyone tuning in. I'll be back again with you later on this evening as we will be talking with Debbie from the Utah Pagan Market at 5 o'clock Central. So be sure to tune in for that one. Have a great day, everyone. We're going to be out of here for the afternoon.
Thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. All shows are recorded and available for download at plrdn.podbean.com. All rights are reserved and may not be replayed without written permission by IAPN Radio Management. Come join us at our new group, IAPN Radio on Facebook, where you can be kept up to date for future broadcasts. Pleasant journeys, everyone.